And I want the public to know that I'm a person of many perspectives and viewpoints, and I'm not pigeonholed into any particular category. And being very favorable towards pizza and Greenpeace, we have those issues, but at the same time, terrorism is on the forefront. But before we jump into that, I wanted to give a quick anecdote on Johnny Carson, since this happens to have been the subject of the beginning of the week. And of course, we all mourn the passing of an icon and a legend and someone who created careers almost beyond measure. But certain truths, and I've always stood for truths, must be known. And everybody has said the man was incredibly shy and he was a loner and so on, is not quite accurate. I remember I was with an incredible genius of entertainment and media, a creator of the Kennedy Center Honors, and originally from Hee Haw and the Hollywood Palace, Nick Vanoff. And I had seen the Carson show, and I was going to meet Nick Vanoff, who was a friend of Johnny Carson. He was a tremendous producer and talent himself, a creator of talent, a promoter of talent, and the producer's producer. And Johnny Carson happened to be coming out his own elevator out of the building, and I happened to be coming out of the studio audience where I had been a guest as a result of other guests from different times have been put in there. I was going to meet Mr. Vanoff at his car, and I thought I would say hello to Johnny Carson, naive as I was, on the way. And Tommy, I've said hello to a million different people. And Mr. Vanoff took care to introduce me to a million people, Dolly Parton, to Jerry Lee Lewis, to Bob Hope, all in the space of the preceding 2 days. And he grabbed a hold of my arm when Johnny Carson was about, I would say, 50 feet distant from me. And he said, "Are you crazy? Do you know what you're doing? Don't you know anything about him? This man doesn't like people." He didn't say he was shy. He didn't say he was reticent. He said he doesn't talk to people. He doesn't like talking to people. He doesn't like people. Now, he may be magnificent at what he does, but let's not make him into Moses. This is not the humility of Moses. Moses was the most humble man on earth. This wasn't Johnny Carson. Johnny Carson buried all the opposition. He created lifelong struggles with people. And that's my
I've got to put the tape on.
Johnny Carson.
Go ahead, keep talking.
I think Johnny Carson is here in the studio even after death. He's making sure people can't attack him. Even after death, he's here with incredible power. Now, as far as the Middle East, this is really the subject of the day. And I've met everybody familiar with the Middle East as well, including all the terrorists. Starting with the assassination of Rabbi Meir Kahane, where I was present, I saw Al-Qaeda lined up outside the courthouse with all the demonstrations in favor of terrorism then. And the city took no notice at that time. And we have, to this day, significantly improved our situation thanks to the current administration. And only thanks to the current administration. No preceding administration did anything about combating terrorism, and that includes Israel. And unfortunately, America and Israel act in tandem before the present. And I don't understand why Israel would build a security fence to its living room instead of on its border with Jordan, because that's where the security fence belongs. And, of course, you take the security threat from within the country and you put it on the other side of the security fence in Jordan. You don't put it in front of the fence on your own territory, because then you're only boxing yourself in. But, of course, Israel hasn't done anything too smart with terrorists in a long time. They've surrendered 1,300 terrorists back to freedom so they can come and kill us again in exchange for 3 soldiers who are usually even dead by the time they get them back. And America, I don't know what America is doing anymore, how many soldiers we're losing in Iraq day by day, but at least the battle is over there and not here. We should count our blessings. That's not yet. It's not yet here. But we have still many, many vulnerabilities. And I will not defer to anybody on the Middle East. This is my expertise. It was always my expertise. And I said, together with a cadre of very valiant people, with whom I was friends, not associated,
Just a minute. Remember, you're talking to them, not to me.
I know that.
Another thing, I want to
I'm
talk
talking to both.
I want to talk to the audience. This is a call-in show. You can call in at any time, whether you agree or disagree with whatever is going on. You know that. You know the number. It's 757-1538-212. Thank you.
Everybody always agrees with me, Tom. I expect everybody to agree with me on these subjects here. I'm not used to opposition, Tom, you know. And the cadre of these people from the beginning said 9/11, we didn't say the date, as a concept was imminent. From before 1992, from the assassination of Rabbi Kahana, from Nosair, El Said Nosair, who was a linchpin of the attack on the First World Trade bombing, who orchestrated it from the jail we helped put him in. We said that is inevitable. Ramzi Youssef re-echoed their threat when he was finally captured by the FBI in 95 and again on trial in 96. They kept saying it over and over again. We had someone at the top of the Empire State Building, an Egyptian, a Muslim who came with a gun from Florida in the same way Nosair did and shot up 19 people. And we had the attempted blowing up of the FBI building and the courts and the bridges in 94. It was
Wait a minute. We've heard all of this because so you're saying we should have been prepared for 9/11?
Wait.
What should we have done to stop 9/11?
We could have stopped these cells from growing. We could have stopped the terrorist threat, who we knew about, from ever expanding and getting bolder and bolder. Bin Laden did not issue his encyclical against Christians and Jews and Westerners and America in particular until 1998. What happened between the assassination of Maya Kahana, which everybody finally now recognizes was the first Al-Qaeda attack, in 1990, November 5th, and 1998? They weren't quiescent. They were getting bolder and stronger with more training camps and more recruits, more and more money from here, from the mosque here, from the imams here, all of whom fled on 9/11 back to their safe havens in the Middle East. And even when Saudi Arabia was uncovered, they refused to cooperate with America.
Yes, fuck you guys.
Now.
See, agreement right away, Tommy. I told you that there's absolutely no disagreement any time I discuss anything. Now, Bin Laden, to let everybody know where and who he was, he attacked the U.S. Cole, the largest destroyer I ever saw. I toured it in the Brooklyn Navy Yard, and 2000. You know, President Bush came in after the attack. President Clinton was president. It was on Memorial Day weekend, on display in the Brooklyn Navy Yard with the other destroyers from around the world, the U.S. fleet. And I toured it with students. I've written about this. I wrote about it in my alma mater, Tufts University. How they boasted how many defenses they have when even the U.S. Armed Forces had received all kinds of warnings how Yemen was a terrorist haven. Don't send your destroyer over there for review. What other purpose it had, nobody knew. And yet, they were going, and I said, are you crazy? Look at the kids I have here. They're going to read about your ship being attacked in Yemen. And the whole crew said, well, look at her. And they showed our weapons, the torpedoes, and the bombs, and everything, and the size of the ship. And sure enough, 6 months later, it was there in Yemen, and a little lifeboat with 2 people on it, with a tiny little bomb, and boom, they almost sank the whole ship. And but for the bravery of the captain and the crew, the ship would have been lost. And they lost, I don't know, close to 20 people dead, and dozens wounded, and it took 3 years to repair the ship.
No, wait a minute. All these things have happened. What do you expect us to do? You expect us to attack a country where the terrorists are? All we did is do nothing because we are trapped in a democracy. And you know as well as I do, to get anything done in a democracy takes a long time. And also, when Hitler was reigning, you think we could have done anything at that time? Look what's happening now. We went to Iraq. Nothing but flack is coming from one party or another. No one seems to like what's happening or what is not happening. You just can't stop these things that quickly from a democracy area.
What I'm talking about is an understanding of the immensity of the threat. Throughout this period of time, it should have been immediate. By our government officials.
Did you
and by the
want, though?
public.
Did you want? Did you want?
It still was possible to have stopped these threats by attacking their source. It didn't require any impingement on the democracy.
So where are they?
We knew where they were. We had cameras. We had satellites. They know where we're moving. They know we're in the studio right now with a dozen satellites upstairs. They know every base. They have already proven on 1 million movies they had Bin Laden in their sights. They didn't shoot because some prince from some Arab country might have been landing in a private plane. Now, is that normal thinking from our intelligence services that are paid fortunes? Of course not. This was all under Clinton's watch. This was all done under... He emasculated the FBI. He emasculated the CIA. That I'm not upset about because they were our enemy who brought these people into his jaws in the first place. But the FBI, they were wonderful. The FBI was tremendous. They caught every terrorist that was put on trial in this country was caught by the FBI from all over the world. And they continue to do their wonderful work. But let them do their work. Clinton hated them, and he persecuted them all the time, and he went after people for no reason whatsoever. We had nothing being done with the terrorists. He was making overtures to Arafat incessantly, and you saw what happened with that. The result was the creation of the suicide attack. And it happened on the Clinton like Oslo did, which made the Middle East the cesspool of hate and violence that it is today. Everything Clinton did only augmented terrorism and showed the world to have contempt for everything. This was what should have been stopped. This is what should have been nipped in the bud instead of the funding from all the well-wishing liberal left-wingers who funded Arab terrorists under the guise of education, under the guise of civil rights, but so misnamed. They funded all the terrorists. We told them these are terrorist groups. We said we can prove it. We can document it. Steve Emerson was documenting it month by month by month. And nobody listened and nobody cared. And the money came from all sources and all sides. And then, lo and behold, we disclosed it after 9/11.
Free Palestine. Free Palestine. Free Iraq. Free the U.S.
You have a question? No.
Of course they don't have a question. Because if they have a question, you have to have facts. And they have no facts, they have no truth, and they have nothing to base up anything except their expletives. But that's all right. We have a free Palestine. It's called Israel. Because in 1948, the Palestinians were Jews. And they freed the Jews, finally, from the British mandate and the British suppression. And Jordan should have been Israel, too, but the British stole Jordan from the Jews earlier, carved it out of the British mandate for a Jewish homeland, and created this fictitious country called Jordan from the loser in Saudi Arabia who had lost his fight to Faisal, and created a British country called Transjordan and put a puppet king there, and the present guy is the puppet of the puppet king. And that's a British vessel, and we, America, we spend our time and resources protecting a British vessel, and which has sided with Iraq now twice in the war against us. The first, his father sided with Iraq in the Gulf War I against us, and now they sided with Iraq again. And I don't know why we protect this country. I would take all the Arabs in Israel and happily fund them, send them right into Jordan, and make that the compromise if he wants to have, because the present solution is untenable.
All right, how about talking about your guests now?
All right, now, I don't just come myself. I never come alone. They're being experts have to have experts with them. So there is a company out of Texas. Texas happens to be in the news lately for a long time. It's a big state. I've been to a university of Texas in Austin. We lectured there on against hatred and so on, and for realism, because we don't want to espouse hatred. We don't want to have groups fighting groups, but we want to protect ourselves from terrorists. And then I went to Houston many times for Republican conventions and other conventions, and out of Houston comes a wonderful country that has pioneered technology to combat and prepare us against the terrorist threats that are escalating. They approach us in simplistic ways. We do not have the ability to fight simplistic ways. We think, spaceships from Mars are coming to attack the Earth any day, but it's not true. They can attack us in the ports. Maritime vulnerability.
Let's get to your guest.
So here's the
bring 'em on for a while.
representing this company that has the greatest technology to protect us, and there are plenty of companies out there. This is just one example.
Okay, wait a minute. Give me this. Okay. Let's change seats now. You know how that works? Okay.
Thank you for having me.
You want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, my name is Boris, and I am representative of VIP Systems.
I want you to talk right in there. That's the people. Come closer to me.
Okay.
That's it.
I represent VIP Systems. It's a security company. We secure ports. We secure homes. We do mostly custom installation of cameras and other surveillance material that you could view from whether a remote location or office that your security center is set up at. Today, New York and America's ports are very vulnerable to other, as Shannon said, terrorist organizations. We don't have enough security. Our ships have no surveillance on them that could be viewed by our Coast Guard. So on those bases, our company installs things like security systems. We install them straight on the boat, where on carriers.
Well, what do you mean by security? We have a boat in the harbor. What do you do?
Absolutely.
Put
You
a
have
camera?
boat, you put cameras in every compartment.
Every compartment in a boat?
Most of the compartments.
How many compartments in a boat?
Well, a huge tanker can have up to, I don't even know. I mean, there's the fuel compartment. There's
100?
Where maybe 100, maybe 200, 300.
So wait a minute. Now you put this in every compartment, 100 or 50?
Yeah, in every room, most of the rooms that are required by our government, by the Coast Guard, they have regulations that need to be done. And what we install is a system where Coast Guard can look inside the ship before it comes in too close to America, which would be like, the regulation is they have to view it from 135 feet off the coast of America.
What's the cost of this for one boat? I mean,
the cost of this is
approximately.
well, the cost of this would not be first of all, the American government, the Coast Guard and the Port Authority decided that if these companies don't have this, if these boats have this kind of security system, they would their yearly insurance would be lowered by 35%. So basically, this by itself, it kind of pays itself off within a year.
Can you tell me what kind of a system? How do these things work?
Well, they work via satellite.
Suppose they're in this room, for instance.
Okay. So you have a security system. You have a DVR, which is a recorder, and we have either server-based or you could have just a regular tape-based. Or what we do is we do server-based. We do hard drive, a 60 gig hard drive, or a bigger 120 gigabyte.
They keep it simple.
It's
Keep it
not
simple.
simple at all, but
Not simple.
and
Nothing.
it goes right through the satellite, where a person who's securing the location, who's watching out for this location, could have a little USB chip.
Yeah.
It could plug it into any computer in any remote location, and the computer connects them to the satellite. From the satellite, the computer, the signal is sent from the computer to the satellite. From the satellite to the boat, you could do things like the opportunity is on.
Is this simple to install?
Our installers do it within, I don't know, within a month, maybe a month and a half.
I don't know if you're aware of this. You know Nicole Kidman, the actress?
Absolutely.
She was just complaining that 2 reporters in Australia were spying on her.
Okay.
What they did was they put a wire in. So, did you know about
Our
this?
systems cannot be penetrated by regular outside sources.
But these people put a
99%.
Now wait a minute. They put this item in this thing in her apartment or in her home, so they can hear her talking. And they have a wire out so they can hear from miles away what's going on in her home.
But what they're doing, they're putting in the actual technology inside her house.
Yes.
They wouldn't be able to do that because we have surveillance. She would be able to see that they were there. You have to understand. We have surveillance systems. What they put is probably a microphone or something maybe like this in her house.
This
But
is
with our
being done, isn't it?
surveillance, oh, absolutely.
It's being done right now in this
We
country.
did 65 ships already. 65 off the coast that come in and out of.
Oh, you're doing it to the ships.
Absolutely. That's the thing. We're doing it to the ships. We also automate home. We secure home.
How about planes?
Well, we can't do planes yet. Well, I mean, we could, but planes
You know what I
already
mean?
have.
Because these people that came in at 9/11, if we had that on the plane,
If
we
we,
knew
if
they...
we were to get the contract to do this, the permission of the government to do this, we could absolutely put it on a plane. We could put it on a scuba, then on a dive, on a scuba diving technology, on anything you want.
Well, the
Off
danger
air,
now
on air.
isn't the danger now is airplanes. So why don't we put it on an airplane so we know what's going on?
Well, I would love to put it on the airplane, but the government, there's rules like that FCC has that don't allow this kind of thing. But I heard something that where they're already doing that. They're already trying to do that. And we are.
It seems logical, isn't it?
Absolutely, it is absolutely.
The biggest
logical.
fear that everyone has now
Yes,
are
flying.
airplanes.
Flying is the biggest fear.
For instance, if I were on a plane and a terrorist... Hello? 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 Sorry. If a terrorist said he put up his guns and everything, everyone, we're going to land in a certain place, don't worry. I know immediately that they're going to bomb something and I'm going to die.
Yeah.
So I will attack the terrorist and perhaps lose my life. But I'll lose my life even if I listen to the terrorist. Now, if we had this device in an airplane, they would know what's going on.
And what can they do? Shut down the airplane?
I don't know. That's a little ahead of
They
me.
can't really get into you to give you a hand. You know?
Weren't they about to shoot down these planes that went to
They were.
9/11? They were about to shoot them down.
Yes, they were.
Now, if they shot them down,
The less people would have died.
there would have been a tremendous uproar. They said, how do you know that it's going to happen?
Exactly.
So what I'm trying to get at is there are different devices and thoughts that come to my mind that we can devise.
Yes, there's different devices. Actually, they installed them, I heard, on 777 planes, that the plane could automatically be taken over by ground control, which means that there's a person on the ground with a computer who takes complete control of the airplane from the ground via camera.
So the pilot can't do anything.
Pilot can't do anything. They shut it off completely.
So there's an idea. That's what I'm saying.
But I heard of them doing that, but I don't know to what extent they would.
Well, I'll tell you, I had no idea we had these things on ships.
Absolutely, and it's very, very good because you don't know what they put in those containers. You don't know what happens. You don't know what happens pre-hand. How good is security at other countries? Where these ships are traveling from.
Yes.
They could be traveling from Middle East, as Shannon mentioned. They could be traveling from anywhere. I mean,
This is amazing.
anywhere in the world, and you don't know. You can't trust other countries' security. You know what I mean?
Okay, I'm here now.
We're not trusting. You know what I mean? We have to have our own security to see what happened on the ship prior to its departure from another country, which our camera is allowed to do. The Coast Guard can see what happened exactly on the ship through the surveillance cameras. They could look at it either 135 miles off course
135 miles away?
or they could connect to it while it's still in that country via satellite. Well, everything is via satellite, but they could connect to it and watch what's going on and around the ship from the cameras that we install. Plus, we need to secure our ports. I mean, physical, actual ports to see what's going on, what's coming in, what's coming out. You know what I
Well,
mean?
New York seems to be the target.
Well, it is. New York and New Jersey. New York, New Jersey is the biggest target. They can bring in anything you want.
Is that the
Well,
thinking now, that the targets are New York and Jersey?
Yes, that's what I've been hearing, yeah.
That's what I've been hearing, and that's what I think.
Big port. You don't want to be a part of it.
No.
It's so close to everything,
Yes.
Very, very dangerous. I mean, the most we could do is secure our ports, make them install these cameras, which is what the government is doing. We are associated with Homeland Security. We are licensed by TSA,
Good.
by
Great.
all of these, by the Port Authority, by most of these ports.
Just a minute. Is there any questions? Don't you have any questions out there? Well, look, I pride myself on my audience. You watch me every week. You have no questions. So this man is talking about security in this country, especially the ports. There are no calls coming in. I don't know why. Is this reaching you? I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah, so this is what we do. We are VIP systems, and aside from doing security at the on a government level, we do almost secure anything. I mean, we could secure your studio. If you know,
I'd like to secure. I want my apartment first. I'm here.
you could do it. Absolutely. You'll be sitting here with your computer. You'll be able to log on through this little chip that we provide to you. It's a USB-based little plug that you plug into your computer. It automatically logs on to the internet, goes through to your system, to the system that we have set up. You put in your password and your screen name.
It'll come right up on the screen?
And it'll come up right on the screen live, real time, or if you want to see recorded for the past
Either way?
week, past 2 weeks.
That's great.
Absolutely, we could do it. We could do it. We do it on a domestic level, on a federal level, on any level you want. And we also, part of our company is automating homes as well.
Well, sure. And the reason I brought up Nicole Kidman is that we always talk about actresses and actors. They have a lot of money and everything. However, increasingly, there's a tremendous danger of harassment of these stars and people with money. People come in, there's another story of another actress. Her son was harassed. He's about 8 years old, my God.
Mm-hmm.
So I would say that they need this kind of a system.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I mean,
Because the stalking business is getting
absolutely.
out of hand.
You don't want to, you don't want these people coming to your house and harassing you. You set up these systems, set up the security system, because person comes to harass you, you don't know who he is.
That's right.
You call the police, you tell them, somebody came to harass me, I don't know who it is. What can they do for you? Absolutely nothing. But at least with our system, you have some kind of proof that you have been harassed. Here's what happened. Here's this person. Here's, and the police has to go out and make sketches and put them on the wall, I mean...
And that's how they do it.
Yeah. When you have this system, it's very convenient. I mean, in your house is the best thing because, well, everything is real good, but in your house, it's the coolest thing for, like, a person like me or a person like you, a regular person, they put wall units on the walls, a little flat screen TV that you touch screen, and you look at all everything around your house, around your apartment, right from any location. You could have it in every room. You could have it in one room. You could do it from a remote location, from your work.
It's good and bad, It's
you could turn
unfortunate.
things on and you could turn things off.
Well, we have to have these things.
Yeah, well, technology. That's how you make things safer. I mean, there's no other way. There's no other way. This is the way to do it. I mean,
Thank you very much, man. That's wonderful.
thank you for having me.
Sure. Thank you. Take this off. You sit there and maybe we'll get you back again. Okay, Shannon, come right back again. Hello?
Hello?
Yes.
What are you talking about?
I want you to watch the show. We're talking about security system in America, and we're talking about the Mideast.
Y'all don't got no idea on what y'all talking about, for real.
Well, keep watching, and perhaps
Keep
you'll learn
watching
something.
it. Y'all suck.
Good. Now, where were we with the Mideast?
Well,
There seems to be some peace coming on, isn't there? Is Israel and the Palestinians?
Now let's.
Aren't they talking together?
I'm going to give you some very, very frank and plain talk that everybody will be able to follow.
Come a little closer to me.
There is no peace coming to the Middle East. Period.
That's terrible. What do you mean?
Period. Now, let's begin again. Is there peace coming anywhere else where there's war? You just saw in Africa a slaughter of, 500,000 people in a month with machetes, as President Clinton said when he sat inactive, and he said, I never thought that 500,000 people could be slaughtered.
Hello?
Machetes and-
Aló,
Yes.
¿cómo estamos?
And was there peace? There was a civil war, and 500,000 people, and the Houthis and the Tutsis, and we did nothing. But everybody focuses on the Middle East. And here we are in Iraq, and there is no sign whatsoever that the Iraqi people want a democracy. There's no sign whatsoever that there's ever been a democracy in any Arab Muslim nation, or that in Eastern Europe. Never mind Arab. Why should we focus
Hello?
on Arab Muslims?
Aló,
What about
Yes.
Eastern
¿cómo
Europe?
estamos por ahí?
What is it?
¿Cómo estamos?
Speak English. What is it?
Margot.
Hello?
Hello?
Yes.
Hi. I believe what that man is saying because I was watching the news today and a lady got raped in her car. Hello?
Yes.
A lady got raped in her car.
What does that have to do with this show?
Oh.
Thanks for calling. Go ahead.
It might have been in Iraq. You know, and in Eastern Europe, they tried and they spent hundreds of millions of our dollars with our volunteers, the same do-gooders. And I'm not blaming any administration for this. It was every administration. Soviet communism fell, and everybody came running to recreate Eastern Europe along our lines, our models, and everything failed. Everything completely flopped. You have the Iron God back in Hungary. You have Jew hatred all over the place, Catholic hatred all over the place. You have fascism reasserting itself
Where?
all over Eastern Europe. Every democracy failed. The economies have failed.
Well, you can't come back.
Everything has collapsed. They cannot support themselves. They are dirt poor. Education has failed, and all our initiatives, forget about it.
There's a solution to these things.
So wait. That was the Eastern Europeans. Now we turn our attention to Iraq. Now I applaud the war. I'm for the war going there. Absolutely, it's a threat to us. Absolutely, terrorism is represented by Iran and by Syria.
Hello?
Yeah, the last caller, your show is called Manhattan Women. I think that's what her point was. She may not have been listening to the conversation about foreign affairs, but...
You have a question, sir?
No, I just watch your show occasionally. I just am curious why it's called Manhattan Woman, and yet the focus seems to be on foreign affairs.
It's Manhattan Women in the 21st century. Either way, the calls have gotten on the other side because they were asking questions about the economy, about the world. That's how it's gotten over to the other side.
Okay, thank you.
Well, of course, terrorism will affect regardless of sex. It has nothing to do with whether you're a man or a woman. Terrorism is going to kill all of us, and has killed all of us. I never heard of a subject where only men or only women are the victims. We are all women. We're all victims, and usually the babies. When it comes to the PLO shooting in Israel, they aim for the babies first, usually the women. Usually the female babies, and then the mothers holding the babies in the arms. So usually the women are the victims on this of terrorism. Usually women first. When it comes to these terrorists, they're aiming for the weakest who they perceive for the most terror.
But
they want us by the greatest terror.
You're talking about what's going on or what's going to happen. You mean to tell me there's no solution to this thing?
I told you the solution right in the beginning. I said if Israel had the initiative and the guts and the integrity, it would do what Rabbi Kahana advocated from the beginning, what I agreed with to this extent. I agreed with him on this, that you cannot have 23 Muslim Arab states
Hello?
and a Jewish
Hello?
Arab
I just
state.
want to say, you grumpy old man.
Hello?
Yeah, I like your shirt, man.
You cannot have any kind of Jewish state that is not simply and purely the same kind of Jewish state as the 23 purely Muslim Arab states. The Arabs and the Arab Muslims have proven they are enemies of the Jews in the Jewish state, and you have to have that what every other nation has done, every other nation done through time, the Arab Muslims leave the Jewish state and go to all their other brethren in countries and religion and language and every place else, and they leave the Jews alone, and Israel sends them as a compromise to what used to be Jewish land from the Jewish mandate from Britain, their ancient homeland from Jordan, and they let them go to Jordan, get rid of this king, which nobody needs, and let them establish their home there. And that's that part. As far as Iraq, I think enough American lives have been sacrificed. I'll let them hold their election, and let's go. Let them hold their election, and let's see them hold their country. We cannot do what we did in Vietnam and hold up a country forever. We cannot be their support unless we have a different policy. If the policy is to establish a different oil base than Saudi Arabia, so we don't just rely on this kingdom of potentates for our energy source, since we're incapable of developing alternatives despite wind energy and solar energy and everything else we promised, oil reserves, all of which our government lied to us about and won't go after because of the power of the car lobby. if we're not going to go that way, then let us be admitting we're going to Iraq because we have to rely for a future on alternative oil.
Hello?
Hey, hi.
Yes,
How you doing? It's Jamal.
yes, go ahead.
I was wondering, what do you think about the hybrid cars?
They're wonderful.
They're wonderful, right? Wonderful to go right up your ass, you dirty faggot.
Well, the mayor of New York City espouses the hybrid car, to his credit, to his great credit. This could be our salvation, to save on gas. Anything that saves our responsibility and our liability on the supply of oil and gas, because in 1973, when there wasn't even a real shortage, just the image and fiction of one, so the oil and gas companies could raise the price, we were petrified and panicked, and there was muggings and mayhem, and people were killing each other literally at the gas stations and stabbing each other, and there were lines. And
You're exaggerating.
No, I'm not exaggerating, because I'm in criminal law, and I know crime. And people lost their tempers, and they didn't want to wait on lines and kill the Jews and kill the Arabs and kill everybody. And the same thing happened at 9/11. Hate is right there. Hate is right below the surface. Just create the situation, you'll see the hate come right up, and they don't want to go into the justice system and find out, is it this, is it that? They just want to have a way to vent their frustration. So let's avoid it. Let's be practical. Let's be rational. We have the means to find the alternative energy sources. We have the hybrid cars. Let's save the environment. Let's save the animals. We all depend on one ecosystem here. And let's stop going around the world, blowing things up, and thinking that democracy will survive where it can't. It has no past. It will have no future. It will not survive in Eastern Europe that is based on fascism. It will not survive in a Russia that was based on fascism and totalitarianism. And it will certainly not survive in an Arab Muslim world that doesn't want it. And we have no right to impose it there, but we do have a right to protect ourselves. We do have a right to respond to terrorism and to protect ourselves. We have a duty to our people to protect ourselves from terrorism by going abroad to preempt the attack. And that was the genius of this administration. And that's where it has stopped if the critics get too strong. So by all means, hold the elections. By all means, it deserves tremendous credit for having elections in Afghanistan. And tremendous credit for freeing all those people.
Listen, my solution here is we got a problem because of the elections will go on this Sunday. If nothing happens, if the democracy doesn't work, I think in 6 months, the American public will do the same thing as they did in Vietnam. They'll be an uprising. I really do. And it'll be against the administration. It'll be against them completely.
Now, we have to forestall that. We have to act, in a way so we mitigate the possibility of
But
harm
the
from that.
pressure is building, and even though they just
All right,
started.
so here's how we act intelligently. When the election takes place, America is not stupid. You make sure you leave enough support for the government that's there to prevent a riot. You don't have to have an active army all over the place on the news screens. You make sure it's part of the integral armed forces to prevent insurgencies and riots. But if whatever we would leave there to that extent cannot support the government, then we have to realize ourselves it won't work. But we gave them a chance. We gave them the chance we did in Afghanistan. And that's all that can be asked of us.
You realize this is the job of the UN.
No, the UN
You're
is
supposed to be doing this.
a corrupt, fraudulent bag of
Hello?
I won't use the word.
Hello?
Hello, how are you doing, madam? I would have a comment about the Afghanistan problem in Kabul.
What is the question?
Oh, I have a comment.
Yes.
You guys suck dick.
Hello? Go ahead.
Afghanistan was our mistake from the inception. The Soviet Union went into Afghanistan, and we should have left it alone. Well, why did we have to bother? The Soviet Union was keeping Afghanistan under control, but we considered communism worse than anything. We didn't consider Hitler as bad a threat as communism. And we sent all kinds of terrible people, Bin Laden and those people, into Afghanistan. And what they did to the Russian army is what they did on 9/11, and we were happy, and we sent them all kinds of weapons and all kinds of chemicals, and we didn't care. And then, to make matters worse, we left them there. And he came back to Saudi Arabia, a hero. And this guy who had been practically thrown out of Saudi Arabia came back a hero. And he was able now to enlist his terrorists from Afghanistan, fresh from the blood of victory against the Russians. And we let him build up his training camps and build up his terrorists and build up his infrastructure. And since he was then kicked out again from Saudi Arabia, he blamed America for it. And we let him build up his hatred against America the way we let Arafat build up his hatred against Israel and America. And we let these terrorists build up their hate and build up their arms and build up their struggle against us, and we act too late. Let's not make that mistake now in Afghanistan and Iraq. Let us see how strong the government is. We cannot be there unless we want to declare we need that oil. We cannot just rely on Saudi Arabia. Therefore, we are there in Iraq protecting it for ourselves and for our future and for protection against it becoming a terrorist network. But if we're going to use the line that we're there to protect democracy, if we're there in Iraq to make sure people who can't hold democracy, have no tradition of democracy, and don't want democracy, that is not going to fly with America or with Europe. But it will fly if we tell the Americans, you're not going to have oil, and you're not going to have gas, and you're going to have bombs. That will work. Because Americans have, for all time, been like everybody else. They've been no different. Europe is the most rapacious history of all. It's been all over. England has gobbled up the world. France has gobbled up the world. Germany has destroyed the world. Spain has destroyed the world. We don't have to answer to any of these nations. Their history is so appalling, you can't even read it without crying. And we had a history of slavery, and all of a sudden, we're coming here,
Hello?
Hi, how are you?
Yeah.
This is Bruce. Your guest is very logical, and he's very rational in what he's saying. Yeah, I agree with him about 85% of what he's saying. He's very, very, very clear. Very. I used to know Markahan. I used to be on the Barry Farber show at times with him and talk to him. I met Markahan Akai. You know what I'm talking about. Do you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah. Oh, all right. But your guest
talking to me.
is very logical. He's very clear, and I don't hear. Even though we should learn in our hearts to get along, that's the way where I'm coming from. I was raised in a home where my mother used to say, like, you can't prove it, but if someone says, quote, a Jew, she said it's the same as someone saying a nigger. It's the same as using that word. I was taught to say Jewish people. She said, you can't prove it in court, but anyone who says, oh, he's a Jew, that's the same as someone saying, oh, he's an in. But your logic, I enjoy listening to you. Your guest is very clear, he's very logical. I don't agree with everything he's saying, but about 85% of everything he's saying I agree with.
Thank you. I never.
Thank you very much for calling.
I never look for 100%. My memory said everybody agrees with 100%, but I never look for it.
You never do.
Because I'm going to.
So, Sean, you gotta start having some solutions to this. My solution
I keep giving you.
No, my solution is to have an alternative for oil. That's what we have to do.
Yeah, mine too.
That is the ultimate solution.
We have wind energy. Have you explored wind energy?
It's not enough. Wind energy.
Wind turbines all over.
No, it's not enough. Whatever we have now is not enough.
Because we didn't develop it. We didn't put the money there. We didn't put the resources into it. We didn't put the commitment there. We put the commitment into cutting down trees and coal and stripping.
It's not we. It's the wealth of this country that's doing that.
No.
They are stopping it.
Absolutely not.
You don't think so?
Absolutely not. I know that I love this president. I think this president is a godsend to this country and has saved this country from the morass of the preceding president. The preceding president I voted for twice because I thought he would be an environmentalist. And he was a fraud on that like everything else. He cut down as many trees as this guy, and he did it right away.
Hello?
I consider...
These are Arabs calling,
No, I don't believe they're all... No. I lived...
Arab sympathizers.
Sympathizers. I lived and worked with Arab Muslims as much as I did with Jews. I got along better with the Arabs than I did with the Jews. And I studied at Hebrew University Law School, and you know how much I love the Armenian community, and I know that their Holocaust preceded ours, and the world...
But they're not doing anything.
They're starting a museum.
No, they're not.
In
They're not doing
Washington,
anything.
There's a museum coming. An international museum commemorating the Armenian Holocaust. Absolutely. Absolutely. And I do program after program talking about the Armenian Holocaust, which is the greatest tragedy, that people don't know about it and study it, and how the world turned its back on 1.5 million people slaughtered in the cruelest fashion by the Turks in 1915.
Right.
And only our district attorney in Manhattan is still...
Yes, I'm calling. I'm Turkish, by the way. The slaughtering of the Turks?
What was that? What's
No,
the
the slaughtering of the Armenians.
Yeah, not me, my ancestors.
The Arab sympathizers, they call a lot of them. Lots of them do that.
I
call them Arab sympathizers. Now look, you are like a lot of people that say all Arabs and all Muslims are not the same. My argument is, since 9/11, why haven't the Arabs, American Arabs, who are thriving here, who are sending their children to Arab schools, why aren't they parading and saying, we love America, not the Arabs? Instead of sitting back and even dancing during 9/11. You know they did that in Queens and in Jersey City. These are Arabs who are favorable to the Arabs attacking us. My question to you and all Arabs out there, why don't they get together and have some kind of a parade and say, we love America? They don't do that.
We have to make very great distinctions. Arab Christians are not Arab Muslims, and Arab Muslims are 1 million different groups and sects themselves. And there's been as many different fights between Arab Christians and Arab Muslims as within Christianity. There is no uniformity there.
There's no group at all that I'm talking about who's doing anything about for America.
My whole point of the history of terrorism early in the show is that this is a very small group of terrorists, started as of one cell in Egypt and one other cell from Afghanistan.
Mr. Deli, is he going to be on the show? Do you know this guy?
He's the head of the company. This gentleman is Eddie Genin. He's the head of the company. He's even smarter than the other guy who I crew was too smart for me.
Well, how about putting him on?
All right, let me just make this point. You can put him on.
We don't have much time.
All right. The cells that joined under the blind Sheikh Rahman, who planned the First World Trade and the Second World Trade, that is the inspiration for all this terrorism, that we helped put away in federal pen thanks to Mary Jo White, the greatest prosecutor, and Robert Morgenthau, the greatest district attorney.
Oh, my God.
Absolutely.
Oh, Morgenthau.
And Morgenthau is also, and he and his father...
Dreadful.
He and his father, grandfather, are also the ones who bring to light the Armenian
Terrible people.
Well, I'm their greatest fan.
I won't even argue with you. Put on your guess.
All right.
Let's see your guess.
I just want to say that, I would make this one point, that if it were all the Arab Muslims against us, there would be a hell of a struggle, because there's a hell of a lot of them. But there's an intimidation in the Arab community, and there's a lot of threats within the Arab community. They're not like the other communities, you know. If you go out and speak out and want to voice your opinion, you know, you can be told and visited and so on and so forth.
I do it all the time. Every week, if you watch this show, I tell the Arabs off. I tell them that they are murderers, they are crooks, and they're using this country. They're in this country. They're not contributing. They're just taking.
But I don't.
And they applaud what's going on.
I never generalize. I know my enemy is large, but they're not that large. Thank God. And within the Middle East, the people dancing in the streets, and I wrote about it right away in the Jewish press and elsewhere, were the PLO, in Israel. All right, now this is my good friend, Edward.
Edward, come right on. I want to talk to him about security. Put this over here. I'm going to put it over here to make sure. Sorry. Okay, you want to introduce yourself?
Yes, my name's Edward Genin. I'm from VIP Systems in the corporate
You got to lean forward a little bit. You can't advertise on this show. Otherwise, they'll throw me off.
Okay. Well, basically, we're just doing homeland security. We're trying to make America a safer place for everybody.
Don't you talk right in there to the people. They're watching the show.
And we're just trying to make America a safer place by installing biometric systems on our LNG boats that are coming through the ports throughout the United States. And also, we're trying to make America a safer place by installing security cameras and surveillance systems in government buildings and other government entities.
Would that stop 9/11, what you're doing now? Or let's take the bombing in Oklahoma. Would that have been stopped with this?
particular system that we're talking about could very well have prevented the bombing in Oklahoma, because for the simple fact that if the Oklahoma building had a biometric system, no one could have entered the building without a permit from the biometric system. You see, this biometric system also takes retinal scans and fingerprints. So meaning it would scan through the database to where if the person was not allowed in the building, he would be immediately denied access to the building.
Now, wait a minute. The same thing being done with 9/11, these guys getting on the airplanes?
The same thing could have been done with airplanes. Same thing can be done in the airports. Before anyone enters an airport, if this biometric system is installed, no one can enter an airport that has any sort of, how to say, mishaps with our government. And another thing to take in mind is in the United States, you can travel in commercial...
Hello?
This
Sorry, go ahead.
If you can travel on airplanes in the United States simply by just having 2 credit cards. If you have 2 credit cards on you with the same name on them, you don't even need an identification. You can go right through security. They don't even check who you are. So how does the government really know?
Is that what's happening now?
That's what's happening now. I swear to you, you can go to the airport, show them 2 credit cards with the same name on them, and they'll let you on an airplane. What kind of security is that? What's that saving you? How can they even document who gets on the planes in reality if there's no viable evidence? I mean, this is really bad.
Why are they saying you got to be at the airport an hour or 2 before because they check you out?
I mean, they want you to buy some things there. I mean, it's all commercial. That's the way I figure it. Because in reality, you can go there, you don't even need that.
That's terrible news.
I mean, they're saying it's Homeland Security, risen levels, it's red, it's yellow, it's orange. I mean, what does this mean? It doesn't matter what color it is. You can still get on an airplane without an ID. Now, how is that safe? How do they know who's really flying? Any John Doe can go grab 2 credit cards, 2 prepaid credit cards to get them on an airplane. And now, how is that making America a safer place? That's why the system that I'm trying to offer these people is basically to make America a safer place, make everyone in general here safer, and sort of have some sort of backup resource if something does happen. There will be pre-recorded data stored in a safe place, because these systems, they don't have to have the data stored at the same place where the system is, actually. The system can be transferred through IP addresses to a storage facility hundreds of miles away.
Do you have anything to do with your system, anything to do in Israel? Let me ask you a question, because in Israel, they seem to be, people get on the planes and they don't have any problems with Israeli airplanes.
Well,
am I right?
I mean, there's a lot of, heat in that.
Why is there no problem with their airplanes and their problems here? I mean, before 9/11 hijacking, for instance. No Israeli planes were hijacked.
I mean, I can't really say because my market has not gone as far as Israel yet. We are a fairly new company here.
I mean, in the past, do you know, are you using something similar to what they've been using?
For what instance?
For checking passengers. Evidently, they have a list or some way to check passengers.
Yes, well, you see, the way we work with the TSA, which is basically an airport security government program that Homeland Security installed after 9/11. And TSA gives us a database full of any terrorists or maybe people that they think may be terrorists. And we would put it in this data system, and right when anyone would arrive at the airport, they would either do a retinal scan or a fingerprint scan, which would immediately put out an alert if someone in that database was brought up. And immediately they would be seized and they would be taken in for questioning.
What is happening now? I want to go on an airplane. I'm a terrorist.
Okay.
What's going to stop me from getting on American Airlines, for instance? Right now,
nothing's going to stop you. As long as you have 2 credit cards and you don't have any metal objects on you that are dangerous to threat or anyone, any civilians or any airline workers, they'll let you right through security.
Like that?
Like that. Just as simple as a click of a finger.
Because I tell you, it occurred to me, my wife got on an airplane and they told her to get there 2 hours before. She says it was a waste of time.
It is a waste of time. I usually show up about 45 minutes or so and hop on my airplane comfortably because I don't like sitting in the airport. And, the days to maybe have to come 2 hours is like Christmas or New Year's or Thanksgiving. But other than that, there really is no necessity to come to the airport early. I mean, the whole security process has, if I can say, it hasn't increased at all. If it has, it's decreased.
That's horrible news.
And, as much as...
after 3 years?
After 3 years of 9/11 going by, and people just seem to forget.
One of these things that I see on television, you go through a scanner, they check your baggage, they do this, they do that.
Well, I mean, it's a simple X-ray machine. You see, these X-ray machines just check what's in your luggage. And, for instance, you go through a metal detector, fine, but you know, there's certain things. I mean, like you don't need a bomb to take down a plane. Am I right? I mean,
Yes.
You don't need a bomb to take down a plane. Look what happened in 9/11. They used scalpels. I mean, plastic scalpels. These things didn't even show up in the metal detectors. I mean, they were just as, you know.
I thought they used box cutters, didn't
It was scalpels and box cutters. They used both, I believe. So, and these items, they're very passable through X-rays and also viable through metal machines. And I'm, you know.
Aren't you afraid of being arrested when you leave this building? For what you're saying?
Am I
This is
afraid?
terrible news, man. I mean, come on.
I'm not afraid of being arrested because I'm saying the truth. But, you know, I'm just trying to inform the people of the United States and also, you know, the government that, you know, well, if they think they're actually performing a task by increasing the alert status or anything of that sort, it's really not doing anything. I mean, if anything, it's decreasing funds, as I assume. I've talked to several judges, to several different security directors of different buildings in the United States, and they all tell me, you know, as Bush says, we're bringing a budget, we're bringing in money, we're bringing in this. They don't get a budget. I mean, where's all this money going? Where's all this, you know, Homeland Security budgets, grants, all this kind of, you know, stuff they're talking about on the news that's supposed to be happening? I mean, I don't see any of it because I'm in this business, and honestly, I mean, yes, our income and our revenue sales have gone up, but I mean, it hasn't really gone up since before 9/11. It's actually decreased, and then it went back up. So I mean, it's really strange how the market's reacting to all this.
Is this the first time you're on TV?
No, this isn't my first time on TV.
Were you on, or did you say the same thing about the insecurity of the getting on an airplane?
Actually, this is my first time actually bringing up this topic.
Well, I don't know what's going to happen here. I don't know. Because what you're saying is we're spending and talking about billions of dollars. We just had a presidential race. Nobody, neither Bush nor Kerry mentioned anything that you're saying right now, nor did anyone else.
Well, because why would they want them to say any of this? I mean, it's simply that it's
Because we're wasting a lot of money.
We're wasting a lot of money, yeah, on their jets.
Huge sums of money.
Huge sums of money are being wasted and allocated for this particular reason, for homeland security.
That's right.
Protecting the homeland, which is the United States of America, if I'm right. And we are in the United States of America, and to be honest, it's not safe at all. I don't feel it's safe. I go under bridges, and I'm like, well, is this bridge going to fall? Is there going to be a boat that stops underneath it? Is there even a camera on any of these cars that are stopped underneath the bridge, stalled cars underneath the bridge? You know, in Texas, under every single bridge there's a camera. And in the city of New York, there's not one camera under any of the bridges. I mean, this is supposed to be the highest alert city in the United States.
Wow!
Why is Houston, Texas, a cowboy city, have more security than New York?
Because the president lives there. That's why.
Is that a reason?
It's not a reason at all.